rebel, 3 rebel, 4 rebel, 5. Yeah. 1 rebel, 2 rebel, 3 rebel, 4 rebel, 5. Ooh, yeah.
Oh, time to talk story, fellas. This one's for the fellas out there. So I've been thinking, I want to offer an invitation. I want to extend an invitation to men out there of all ages. But I feel I'm probably going to talk to more older men than younger men. And the reason for that is I want to hear people's stories. I want to hear stories of men that were in marriages, relationships, engaged, etc., to women that basically screwed them over. I personally, throughout my life, I've heard lots of stories of men that did their very best in marriages and relationships to please their women, and the women, for a reason we won't get into, but the women absolutely destroyed them, wrecked them, left their lives in shambles financially, emotionally. I had a friend try to kill himself because of this. I know several friends that attempted this type of thing because of the women they tried to please, and these women ended up basically just ruthlessly screwing them over. Okay, now I want to be clear. I'm not trying to bash women. That's not my goal. I've said this before. I love women. I want to protect women. I hate the spirit that has manipulated women into turning against men. I hate this deception that a lot of people are under, men and women, that they go against God's design. I hate that. I see a world where men and women can love each other, protect each other, take care of each other, support each other, where the man is up front and the woman is behind, safe, allowed to be a mother, to raise her children, to support her husband, to even have a career if she wants to. But I see a world where women are given a fair, balanced perspective of what it means to be a woman that doesn't demonize men. So that's what I hate. I hate the lie that's been sold to our culture. And I believe through the stories of men who have done their best, that have been screwed over, I believe if men will share their stories with me on a video, we will find a common theme throughout all of their stories. I myself, like I just said, my entire life, I've seen many good guys, good men, get their lives wrecked by selfish, manipulative, narcissistic women who were manipulated by this evil spirit in our society. So it's almost like if you were to gather all the stories of all these men and present these stories to somebody, that person would probably think it was the same woman dating all these men, because the stories are so similar, the characteristics of these women are so similar. It has to be a spirit behind it. It has to be a single driving force that's manipulating these women to do these things. So I want to share a couple of stories, 2 stories that really have stuck with me throughout the years. Okay, I'll share these with you to kind of give you guys an idea of what I mean and why I'm so motivated to fight against this evil agenda. So the first story is when I grew up with a group of guys. My wife knows this individual too. I don't want to say his name, but he got married and had a daughter when he was pretty young. He was a painting contractor, and he worked hard, typical blue collar guy. And typical woman in modernity, she was very unsatisfied, very demanding. She worked all the time, so she didn't have to. And because of this, she complained, "You don't give me enough time," and just wasn't like incessantly nagging all the time, never satisfied. Come home, you gotta help with this, you gotta just really unfair behavior towards this guy. He was doing his best. Nobody's perfect, but he definitely didn't deserve the treatment he got. The guy, if anybody's done been a painting contractor, it's hard work. You're climbing up on ladders. You're painting. I mean, I help my brother do this type of work. It's tough. It beats you up. You know, your body gets breaking down because of this work. So obviously, him coming home to a wife that he's providing for, she should have been supportive, submissive, cooperative. She should have breathed life into him and encouraged him to keep going. She should have told him how proud she was of him and supported him. And she would have extracted even more out of him. And the guy would have been walking on a cloud. I know, because I am that man. My wife encourages me and supports me genuinely. She's not just gassing me up, she means it. So anyways, what ended up happening is she ended up divorcing him. Took his child, and we all know how the child support court system is, how divorce court is. Everything went in her favor. She took his daughter, left him, took half his money, left him broke, to the point where his business got destroyed. So obviously, that was hard for him, but he kept on working, kept trucking along, trying to figure out how he could have more access to his daughter. A couple of years went by, and long story short, he thought somebody had kidnapped his wife and daughter because he couldn't get a hold of, or his ex-wife. He thought somebody had kidnapped him because he couldn't get a hold of her. Where is she? Calling her, she was nowhere to be found. I think it was like 2 months later he discovered that she had left the state, moved somewhere else, a couple states over, with some guy. She met some guy, bought his daughter, left the state with him, moved into a house with his daughter, and essentially kidnapped his daughter. And he had no rights. He didn't know which way to go. So that, obviously, he was already beat down by the situation. That destroyed him. He fell into drinking. He always enjoyed a drink or two, but he really started leaning on alcohol and coke. He ended up getting hurt on the job. And like all people who get hurt, the pharmacist and the doctor prescribes them painkillers. So alcohol and painkillers are a deadly combination. Long story short, he ended up losing everything, lost his business, lost his home. He ended up in a hotel room with whatever money he had left, empty bottles everywhere, pills everywhere, had destroyed his health, liver failure. He was dying. He ended up dying in the hospital. Last thing he said was, "I feel cold," and that was it. He died, and it all came from it all stemmed from this evil spirit that this woman had inside of her that was not satisfied. Society has told her she deserves the world. Society told her, movies, music, Disney, all these forms of media told her that the man is supposed to make you happy. He's supposed to satisfy your every need, and if he doesn't, he fails. And he deserves everything that comes to him. So my friend is gone, dead, in the ground, in one of the most unjust ways you could ever imagine. That's just one of many stories. Here goes another story. So when I was leaving the sales world and trying to get into trucking, I was driving Uber to make ends meet. We were barely surviving, but I was driving like a maniac. I was driving 10, 12 hours a day. So this is over in San Antonio, and along the way, it was probably about 6 months I was doing that. So along the way, I met a lot of men, and all of them had a story, okay? All of them had a story. But the story that stuck out the most to me was this guy. I picked him up from an apartment complex. He jumped in the back, and you could just feel his sadness. It was palpable, right? Palpable. You could feel how sad he was. And the thing, men understand this, women don't understand this. Men, when a man is around another man, we can feel, you can sense when a guy operates with honor. You can sense when the guy is masculine. So I sensed that about this guy. He had tools with him and stuff. He's a blue collar guy. He jumped in, I looked at him in the mirror, I looked at him. He looked sad, and I asked him, "Hey man, you alright? What's going on?" And he opened up. He opened up like I was his brother. Like I've never seen this guy, he's never seen me, but he opened up. And he's like, "Man, I just been going through it." And he began to tell me his story. So he had gone through a vicious divorce, and it all started when so he had another blue collar guy. He had his own business where he did remodeling and rehabs and full construction, right? So he had got a contract with the schools to remodel, maintain a bunch of schools in the district. Was making a crap load of money, okay? And around this time, his wife, he has a daughter. At the time, his daughter was like 12 or something like that. and his son was very young, like 2 or 3. And his wife decided to go to school. Even though he was making a crap load of money, his wife, like most women, think that a career is more important than motherhood. So she's like, I want to have a job, whatever, right? She had the kid. Her kid was 2 years old. The daughter was able to babysit the little boy. So she chose to go to school. The wife, okay? Which I'm against that. I think if you have the ability, if your wife has the ability to stay home with the kids, and your husband can cover all your bills, stay home. What's more important than looking after your kids? Why would you want to surrender your children to the school system? Why would you want to surrender your kids to a daycare and pay who knows how much a month for that? That doesn't make, it's totally irrational. But like we're demonstrating in this story, there's a spirit behind all this rebellion, I guess you could say. There's an evil spirit motivating and manipulating women to make these choices. So she chose to go to school, so she could get some job, right? So I guess one of those days where mom was at school and dad was working, there was an accident. His son ended up in the emergency room. His son is okay now. His son's fine now, but it was scary for them, right? So the mom freaked out, made an irrational decision, and told him, why don't you dial back your business? Why don't you taper down your business and stay home more with the kids? Because I still want to go to school. I still have to have a career. I mean, I'm adding that in there. I'm adding that part. She didn't say that. That's not what you said. But I'm adding this to the story. I would imagine her thinking was, if I'm going to be if I'm going to be admired by society and my peers, I have to have a career. Being a stay-at-home mom is slavery. That's oppression, right? I can't do that. There's no pride in there. There's no glory in a stay-at-home mother. That's dirty work. That's unpaid labor. I have to have a career. So instead of her saying, you know what, screw this school thing, I'm going to stay home. No. The source of income had to, the father, the masculine, had to be pulled out of his masculine role and put in the home, which is wrong, right? So, as she went to school, she got her bachelor's, went and got a job, started making money. She told the husband, hey, if I go get my master's, I can make X amount of money where you don't have to work no more. And you can just stay home and be a stay-at-home dad. Okay? He told me, he's like, it felt wrong. Against my better judgment, I agreed, because happy wife, happy life, right? That whole happy wife, happy life. You're pleasing your wife and her feminine sensibilities instead of using your masculine logical brain and leading her from this mistake. He agreed. This is why I say happy wife, happy life is a mistake. Anyways, so against his better judgment, he dialed his business back really far and essentially sold parts of it off to other people, to some of his partners, so they could take over. She went and got her master's, making a crap load of money. He's a stay-at-home dad. Happy wife, happy life, right? Well, right around this time, she got her gym membership, started going to a gym, started just dressing differently, went and got a boob job. Long story short, she ended up filing for divorce. She fell in love with somebody else. The career she went to go find and got into, the degree she got for this job, one of the bigwigs over there was basically banging the dude's wife. She filed for divorce. Everything went in her favor. She got the house, moves his kids into the house, moved that guy that she was cheating with into the house with her, with his kids. He got left with nothing. Now the poor guy's living in this, the apartment complex I picked him up from was ghetto. It was rough. It was in a rough part of the neighborhood. He was left in shambles, nothing, no money, nothing, with another man in his house. Not only that, the guy started crying when he told me this. His son was about 8 years old at that time now. His son was being coached in his little league football by this other guy. And he had lost hope. He tried to fight for a right to have his son and his wife manipulated, used the system against him, and ruined this guy. And he essentially told me, he's like, man, he essentially said he was on the verge of suicide, and he was crying, and he said, oh man, it breaks my heart just thinking about it. He's like, when is it my turn? He's like, I did everything right, and when is it going to be my turn? when is my reward coming? I tell you, man, I was fighting back my tears in that moment because I felt the guy's pain. I can't imagine what that would be like. You did everything society tells you to do, everything your wife asked, and the reward was what? She wrecked him. That's the most evil thing you could do to a man. You're better off killing him. Kill him better. I guarantee you, any father that's hearing this, that has a loving home, would rather be dead than to go through this crap. Okay? And I obviously, when I dropped this guy off, I got out. I gave the guy a hug. I said a little prayer for him. I told him, I know you don't want to hear this. I know that these words might not land, but I'm telling you this: the only person that can turn this tragedy into a victory is Jesus. He's like, yeah. He's like, I know, man. I was like, I know that I hope that comforts you, but I know I've heard stories like this before, and there's always a victory if you give it to God. Give it to God. There's triumph for you in here. God can turn this tragedy into a victory, and your story can serve as a lesson to other men, but you got to give it to God. And that was it. The guy went on his way, and it's just, these are the kind of stories I've heard throughout my whole life since I was a young guy. Like I said, I had a friend that got totally screwed over by a woman to the point where he tried to hang himself with a dog collar, his dog's leash. Thank God it snapped. I got tons of stories, so these are the type of stories I want to shine a light on. I want men to talk about this, so we can. Your stories will be a warning to young men out there, not to avoid women, but to set a standard, to prioritize yourself correctly, align yourself correctly, align yourself. Look, even if you don't believe in the Father, even if you're not a Christian man, which I think all men need to come to Christ. That's a debate for another video, but let's just say a secular perspective, an atheist perspective. You as a man should build yourself up in a way where you are financially responsible, you're healthy, you're physically healthy, and you're the type of person that has something to lose. And you're in a position that you know that if anybody enters your life, they're going to benefit more than you'll benefit by them coming into your life. And that doesn't always revolve around financial, that doesn't always revolve around wealth. It just means you are a valuable asset to everybody you meet. When you can put yourself in that position in life, then you're more protective of who you are, and you're going to vet the people who come into your life a lot more carefully than you would if you're just a guy trying to survive out here. When you're in survival mode, you're just out here trying to latch on to whatever can make your situation better. And that's fine. All of us need to figure it out. But you shouldn't be prioritizing a woman's desires and needs over what you need in this world to be valuable. Okay? That's to you seculars out there. To my men out there that understand Jesus is Lord. We all have a purpose, and that is to serve the Father. Our lives here isn't our story. The story of creation is God's story. And we're here because He wants us to be here. He wants us to enjoy His creation, and He loves us enough to share it with us. And He has a purpose for all of us. So when you align yourself with God's purpose for you, you're going to find joy and happiness through that struggle, through that journey, through that mission. And when a woman comes along, all these Jezebels, they'll fall at the wayside because you're living for the Father. All right, so you guys out there, listen, come talk to me. Even if you don't want to talk to me, if you don't want to show your face on camera, what you can do, I'll put my email here. So you guys can email me your story in detail. If you want to be anonymous, be anonymous. All I ask is you tell me the state you're from, or even if you're from a different country, tell me the country you're from, the area you're from, just so we can kind of get an idea of the culture, right? Tell me your age so we can kind of understand what generation you're from, and maybe, kind of figure out if it's a generational thing, if it's a cultural thing. Your age and the area you're from. I think those two pieces of information are pretty relevant and valuable to anybody's story, right? So at least include those in there. Give me a fake name if you want. Tell me this is a fake name. That's fine. I won't show your email. I'll read it word for word. If we can at least share stories via email, if I can share your stories via email with people, there's lessons in it. The whole point of this is to help teach young men, keep them safe from this disaster. Men are dying because of this stuff, okay? And those are just 2 stories I shared with you guys. There's millions of them out there. So yeah, guys, this is my invitation to you. Come on, let's do some good work for other men out there. We're all brothers, man. All of us on this planet, we're all brothers. Some of us are more lost than the others, but we got to bring all men back on a purpose, on a good purpose, under God, or at least to benefit society. Okay, so that's the video, fellas. Shoots. I'll talk to you later. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Aloha.